what I want to show you here is a kind of a different way to move changes in Salesforce from one environment to another. So here I have various sandboxes set up for dev, test, stage, and then finally production. In some situations, I'd probably just make a change set in dev and then take that same change set and move it to each of the environments. Recently, I was on a project though where they were a bit uncomfortable with that and actually only wanted the things that were in stage to move to production that were approved. Taking this entire change set and moving it wasn't really an option. Likewise, I didn't want to rebuild the change set in stage because the number of components was just very large. It was over 500 components. So the challenge is how do you define what should be pulled out of stage to move to production without doing it by hand. So there's a lot of ways that you can accomplish this. This one is just by using a change set, but actually using Workbench to move the data. So here is the process basically. In dev, we would define the change set once, and then we would use Workbench to export the metadata from the change set. And then along with that export, you get a package.xml, which you can then take that entire thing and move that to test. So now the key here is that when you want to move from test to stage, instead of deploying literally the same customizations, what you can do is in Workbench, you can take the package file that was defined from dev and use that to export the metadata so that you're pulling literally what's in test out to then move to stage. And then likewise, you can do the same. That way, if you ever need to add something to the change set or for some reason re-pull the metadata, you're always pulling the right version from the environment that you're trying to move from. So for example, if you had some, maybe not a process builder is not a good example because those are versioned, but maybe a validation rule. So if you have a complicated validation rule and you've moved it into test and this satisfies a business requirement, and then this continues to move on to stage, and then you start to modify that same validation rule for some other unit of work that isn't ready to go to test yet. You could then just extract that validation rule from test to move to stage and extract it again from stage to go to prod and not have to worry about things that have changed in dev. So let me demonstrate this. So I have an org with various sandboxes, dev, stage, and test. So if I log into my dev, and then I come into Workbench, this is going to log in with whatever sandbox I just last logged in with. And I usually just mouse over the username to make sure I'm actually connected to the thing that I think I'm connected to. So in this case I am. So now if I retrieve, this is how you can extract a change set. So let me show you where that change set is defined. Okay, so I have one change set. It's called printer object. It contains a custom object called printer along with a field on it, the built-in list view, a default tab, and the page layout. So I can take this, change that name and copy it, and put that in the package name, and I'll mark it that I'm just downloading a single package. Retrieve. And this is going to give me a zip file. Download zip. And now my downloads folder, I can extract this, double click on it. There we go. Okay, so in here contains all of the XML for the objects, but the magic thing is the package XML. Let's take a peek at that. So this basically defines every item that was in the change set, which then you can use in Workbench to download in a different org. So let me show you how to send this to another org. So in this case, I'm going to sign out of Workbench. And then I'm going to log into the target one. This will be test. Okay, so now if I relog into Workbench, I'm connected to the test org. And now I can do deploy. So I choose the zip file that I just downloaded. Click that it's a single package, and then send it. Success true. So now, if I were to look in the deployment status, I can see that there was a successful deployment. Okay. And that's the one I just sent. That is not the one I just sent. Oh, because this is the production org. So today is the 29th, and this is the correct one. Okay, so this succeeded. So if I can look in the Object Manager, and I now have the one that says printer. Perfect. Okay, so now when I want to move this change to stage, I can repackage it from test. So for example, let's just modify something in our test environment so I can show you that it actually packages it up. So let's just add a description to this object. This was changed in test. Okay, so now we're going to Workbench, and we will extract through the retrieve, And this time, instead of typing in the name of a change set, we're going to give it the package.xml that we downloaded from dev. So this thing here. And it's all going to be single package. And we will retrieve it. Download it. So I just want to keep track. This is the one that we're downloading now. The dev one ends in UAI. This one ends in UAA, but let's just rename it quick to test so I keep them straight. Okay, so now I could do a compare between these two folders and actually see what changed. So I have Beyond Compare installed on this. So I select the left folder to compare. And then on the new one, I do the compare. And then boom, Beyond Compare. I can select all items and compare contents. And now the red ones are the things that changed. And now I can see that this was changed in test. So that's cool. I'm not quite sure what changed in here. Let's take a look. Oh, because this is the change set. So this is just the name of the change set, and in this case I didn't use a change set to download it. So that explains. I do not want to save that. Okay, so now let's send the changes to test into stage. So I will log out of Workbench, close that environment, and I will log into Sandbox. Stage login. Log back into Workbench. Deploy. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Yes, I am. So now I'm just going to take the zip file that we downloaded from test, which is test.zip. And it's a single package. And deploy. Now, if I were quick, I could look at this actually deploying if you go into deployment status, but this is such a small deployment that I don't think we would be able to see it. Oh, I haven't clicked deploy yet, so there's still a chance. Sure. Okay, nothing's been deployed here yet. Deploy, go back over. There it goes. And done. So now we'll look in the object manager for that printer object. So one of the nice things about using this process is that you're still defining it in a change set, so it's pretty friendly for admins, but it deploys quickly. You don't have to wait for change sets to copy over. I know that process can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a half hour depending on the load. It also gives you a chance to change the XML if you're comfortable doing that. Yeah, so this was change in test. So this is using metadata API to push things, so you still have all the limitations of that. There's going to be some things that just won't push. For example, I think like standard pick lists aren't going to work. If you need to deploy like state and country pick lists, that's not going to work. You have all the same limitations. So it's not a silver bullet, but I think it's just another tool to have in the tool belt, and just kind of use it when it makes sense. One other thing to note, when you deploy into production, there's a couple of different settings that you'll need to use here. So you still want to mark a single package, but for the test levels, you'll probably need to do run local tests, and you should click rollback on error. If you don't select those, you'll just get an error before it lets you deploy it. Yeah, so that's it. If you guys have cool ideas of ways to deploy things in multiple Sandbox environments, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks. Bye.